everyone, Helen Yu here at SAP Innovation Council. We're in New York at Hudson Yard here. I'm with Sean Kask, who is the Chief AI Strategy Officer at SAP. Hey Sean, nice to see you.
Nice to see you again.
Yeah, we will talk a little bit more about AI in SAP Business Suite today. So before we do that, Sean, why don't you give the audience an introduction of yourself and your role at SAP?
Sure, gladly, yeah. As you mentioned, I'm Chief AI Strategy Officer, which means I'm responsible for the AI strategy in the central AI unit that we have at SAP. So I've actually grown up with the unit, so this is my 8th year. And what started as the machine learning unit, as an incubation topic, that's grown all the way up into this.
Now it's agentic and
big
AI.
Central AI. So at SAP, we basically have a central AI unit under Philip Herzig, who's our Chief AI Officer. And we cover all of these cross topics, such as, how do we partner, what are the standards that we're going to apply, and we also build the reusable services and platform, and that includes the models, and then of course AI is done everywhere in SAP. So our LOB solutions like SuccessFactors, S4HANA and whatnot, they're then taking these reusable services and building that into their applications as features.
Cool. That's a cool title, by the way. That's the first one I've heard. I've heard Chief AI Officer, but Chief AI Strategy Officer is the first. Congrats. How does the SAP Business Suite leverage AI to optimize operations across different business units?
Yeah. So we always look at end-to-end business processes, right? And there's no shortage of use case ideas for where to apply AI in a business process to improve it, right? And so what we do is we collect all of these ideas for use cases, and then we basically rank them according to the value that they delivered for the end user, for the business, and then it goes through basically a bunch of stage gates, right? So it will go through like an ethics review, we will do a feasibility check, we will do benchmarking, and then we basically release these as features in the products that our end users and our customers then adopt. So last year we delivered 130 new generative AI use cases across the entire portfolio. That was in addition to around over 100 narrow AI use cases that we had implemented prior to that. And now we have this flywheel in place internally with all these processes and everything. The teams know how to work together so that we see more and more use cases being pushed out. So next year we're looking at an additional 270 for a total of 400 new generative AI features and use cases that surface in the products for the end users. Right?
Wow, I love the catalog, by the way. So thanks for sharing, showcasing that yesterday in the demo. So that's impressive, right? What role does AI play in SAP? What role does AI play in providing action-ready insights within the SAP Business Suite ecosystem?
Yes. AI, of course, is good. There's like the traditional predictive analytics type use cases, right? Where we, for example, analyze which customers are most likely to churn, right? Or which accounts are most likely to not pay on time, right? So we can take all that data in the system, and because we have all the context, right, we can surface that to end users to make actionable decisions of that. So, for example, if you know ahead of time with some predictive score, right? These 10 accounts are most likely to not pay on time.
Wow.
You don't have to wait until they don't pay to launch a dunning process, right? You can already think ahead. Okay, how can I work with this customer? Can I give them a deal? Can I contact them proactively so that they pay the invoices on time and I maintain cash flow and I reduce my day sales outstanding? So there's a lot of use cases like that where we can just provide input for
you still have to put in the algorithm, right? Figure out here's the pattern, here's the risk and factors.
Exactly. Yeah. But again, the thing with our approach is when we identify a use case like that, there's a lot of data science work that goes on. Which algorithm works the best, right? Which approach, cleaning the data, right? Which used to be done in like a custom type setup, right? You extract data, right? You experiment with it, build a pipeline. We can do that at scale. So we'll do that once, but then we push that into the product, and then that's released to 1,000 customers at once.
That's
so they
amazing.
can focus their data scientists on doing custom stuff that differentiates the business.
I think there are two main differentiators of SAP. Number one is your deep understanding of the business, right? And then two is the semantic layer, the connected data. And that's just fascinating to see what you can even do more for all these customers and or for the industries and kudos. How does SAP Business Suite use AI to transform context-rich data into predictive and actionable insights?
Yeah, and I think the keyword there is context, right? So, and some of the examples I gave were maybe more like classic narrow AI, right? And I always wondered, with all of this data being pulled out of SAP systems into hyperscaler data lakes and things like that, if SAP was slowly losing competitive advantage, right? If there was intellectual property being leaked out and whatnot. And now especially with generative AI, I think it kind of flips that on the head a bit, right? Where I see that SAP has a tremendous wealth of this context in the systems that allows them to make much more accurate predictions and results. So, because again, as soon as you take data out of a system, dump it into data lake, all the context is broken. And sure, there are tools to try and build back the semantic meaning in these tables, but you can't capture all of it. Right? So somebody working in the system, hey, help me plan my customer visit next week. What context does this have? What are my accounts? What user roles and permissions do I have? What is the date? Which accounts do I have in the system? So all this data that we have there is tremendously important for generative AI in particular to make actionable, like grounded output.
That makes so much sense, right? You think about the context and then relevancy. That's so important because if you ask the same question with a different context, the response might be very different.
Yes.
Yeah. Before we further our discussion, I think we should do a level set, right? What is exactly, when we talk about SAP Business Suite, what does that mean? Tell us a little bit, explain to us what's included in the SAP Business Suite.
So I mean, at SAP we're lucky because we have solutions that cover all of the end-to-end business processes, right? So whether it's success factors and human resources or our CX and to cover like CRM and ERP, of course, for core finance. From a suite approach, we bring together all of these into a seamless experience where we have the native integration between all of these business processes.
That makes sense. And then how does SAP Business Suite's AI assist in automating repetitive tasks while maintaining security and ethical standard?
So, the reality of AI is that it assists and provides insights and automates tasks, right? Not necessarily jobs. And it's very good at automating tasks that are repetitive, right? Of course. So when we're looking at these use cases that we release in standard, as I mentioned, that's one of the criteria. And our global AI ethics policy. So you can find this on our website on sap.com. Is actually legally binding for all SAP employees and partners, and that lays out the ethical guidelines. And some of those guidelines, the principles, include designing for human oversight and human in the loop. So we always design to support people in their jobs and make them more productive. And also, when we talk about business AI, we have these 3 R's, right? Relevant, reliable, responsible. It just simply means we develop AI that is relevant in a business process with context, right? Reliable because it's grounded in the business data. And the responsible piece, we take very seriously. So that's the AI ethics, that we're compliant, that we apply all of our data privacy standards and security standards. So, because again, like customers trust SAP with like the most critical data, right? Closing your books at the end of the month, forecasts, running your warehouses, right? And so all of the very rigorous standards that we have in place, I think we have 380 or 390 product standards, which include data privacy and red teaming on use cases, on AI use cases, and whatnot. Those are applied to every use case continuously before we put them into production.
I'm glad to hear, right? You basically embed AI into the process, and then it's not like an afterthought, or the standard, the compliance is not an afterthought.
Yeah, and I'll just mention one thing too in the strategy, right? So, we talked a lot about the embedded AI because again, if it's there, customers should just adopt it rather than trying to rebuild things, right? But all of these embedded use cases are built on top of our AI foundation on the business technology platform. And so we then expose those services and capabilities through the BTP to customers and partners to build their own extensions. So those services are used productively in mission critical business processes already, right? And then we're exposing that to customers to do their extensions, and then they also then get things like like native, authorization, authentication, these kind of like last mile problems that a lot of companies get stuck in when they're trying to productize an AI use case, a custom AI use case.
That makes sense, right? So speaking of that, what are the key features of the AI-powered value prop offered by SAP Business Data Cloud? What's new, right, compared to what we had last year?
We're excited with Business Data Cloud coming, certainly. From an AI perspective, I think one is the Databricks partnership. And we haven't really competed in the, let's say, general purpose data science platform space. Okay, and in reality, customers use SageMaker, Databricks, for example, right, where they extract data and then they're running their experiments and playing with it. And when it comes time to put that model into production, then it's pushed into BTP and Generative AI Hub and AI Core, right? And so they do this already. We do this. We've been using Databricks internally, right? And now we have a formal partnership in place where we can do a lot more closer engineering work and work on integration. And it's just an extension of what customers do already.
So if customer wants to leverage that, the SAP customer, can they just use the Databricks naturally, or do they have to go get a license from Databricks, or how does that work?
Yeah, this is part of the Business Data Cloud offering that we're announcing actually.
Awesome.
I mean, the other core thing too in the Business Data Cloud are these data products that we're going to offer, right? So it's like packaged, easily consumable, like scope of data that you can access in the system, and we use that or similar internally for these embedded use cases, but it also just makes it easier for developers, because if you have an agent you want to build, or if you have a use case and you say, okay, I need data from these systems, hey, there's a data product already there, right? And I can grab that and it's standardized, and I can just now use that in my use case. So
that means that we can also bring the non-SAP data into the mix, and then
also. Yes.
Awesome. Yeah. That's exciting.
Exactly.
Speaking of agentic AI, right? That's really top of mind for many companies or people. What's your definition of agentic AI? Can you give us an example?
Thank you for asking about the definition. So I keep saying this. So we were in a working group last year around agentic safety and use cases, and very quickly the whole working group pivoted to a definition of what agents are. And I always point to this example. If you open Russell Norvig, the classic textbook in the last 30 years on AI, I mean, literally the first line on the first page says AI is the study of intelligent agents that perceive the environment and interact, and in some cases can learn, right? So, and that's a very useful concept, but it covers everything. So if I have a keyword-based spam filter in my inbox, that technically could be an agent, right? So these have been around for a while. It's a useful concept. But what's happened with the latest generation of large language models is they now have an ability to reason. And that is what has everyone excited. Right? So you give the agent, right, and the model can be a pretty unstructured problem where you say, okay, I have a goal for you to do, right? And along the way, we're going to give you access to some tools, and we're going to give you some reasoning, like some chain of thought reasoning about how I might approach solving that. But then the agent is then going to do the planning. It's going to iteratively reason through those steps. It's going to access these tools, right? And then it might even collaborate with other agents. And so that is what has the world so excited, because now we can apply these agents to like long-tail business problems that up until now have been pretty immune to automation, right? So, for example, like a dispute management, right? So you get a dispute, customer sends you an email and says, I'm not paying my invoice because I didn't get the order, or you sent me the wrong thing, or the invoice is wrong, or you should have put the sales tax on it, or whatever. And someone has to read that and then try and understand what kind of dispute it is. They might have to look in the CRM system to see what the order was. They might have to look at a policy document on a SharePoint somewhere. Right? All these steps, and so that's one of the first agents that we're planning to release, is to help handle these tasks like classifying what kind of dispute it is, what kind of systems I should be accessing.
Is that part of the Joule studio we're talking about, or is this outside of Joule?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So Joule is our generative AI copilot, right? Which is used for navigating in systems, executing certain transactions, getting information out of the system. So we have these Joule skills in it, right? But it's an excellent entry point as an umbrella for agents. And so what we're also announcing now is, as part of Joule Studio, which we launched last year, which allows customers and partners to extend the skills of Joule. Right, so what can Joule do? Now we're extending that with an agent builder. So you can basically define what the agent should do, right?
Okay.
It's the scope of it. And what business process would it touch? Because as soon as we link it to the business process, which we would have in Signavio, for example, that's now providing context for what other systems it should access, what other agents might be in scope, and then they can basically go down and define what tools it has access to, which data products and business data cloud would this agent need to be able to resolve the problem, what other agents it might need to work with, how you interact with it, is it available with our MS Teams integration, for example, or just through Joule, and then of course do like debugging and choose the reasoning model and things like that, but allows them to build their own.
Have you
agents.
already created the agent already?
Yes, so we're launching. We'll have just like a scoping thing or two. If we take the higher definition of agents, where they're doing these advanced use cases, and we model them after user roles, user personas, right? So if we look at a dispute management agent person, right, like a human who's doing this, that's a good scope because you understand what their job is, what systems access, right? And so we can model an AI agent after that because it's then supporting that role. And there may be skills or sub agents that it's calling under the hood. We don't want to release like thousands and thousands and thousands of agents though, right? We want like targeted ones that work, that handle these kind of problems. So I think we'll have 8 or 10 available by Sapphire.
Wow, okay.
Probably around 20 to 30. Again, these higher level agents by the end of the year, and we'll have a couple that are released productively and in beta.
That's amazing. Okay. My last question here, looking ahead, how do you envision AI in SAP Business Suite, SAP Business Data Cloud evolving, right, to further enhance decision-making process? And what are you most excited about?
No, I mean, I think I'm excited because Business Data Cloud brings together, external data now, right, into the picture, and now with agents, right, maturing at the same time, it all comes together, right, where we have the applications and the end-to-end business processes, the Business Data Cloud sitting on top of that, right, with the semantically rich data, and then now we can build all of these agents that work across business processes. That's one of the key aspects of agents, is it's not just in a silo, right? That's these problems that are hard to automate. They might go across several systems or several processes. And agents can do that with the help of this offering that we have.
That's amazing. But you still need human oversight, right?
Yes.
At the end, once the tasks are completed, humans still need to really provide governance and oversight to ensure things are done in an accurate way, and then further guide the agents on how to perform the task better in the future.
Absolutely. And as amazing as agents are, I mean, they're probabilistic, right? They still make mistakes. I mean, they're improving rapidly. But before any action is really taken, any significant decision in the system, a human is brought in, obviously.
Well, thank you so much, Sean. We really appreciate your time.